Good day, everyone. Happy Thursday. This is being aired on Thursday. So thank you everyone for joining it's a bit of a different way to do Country Kickback, but you guys can still comment and we can still chat. We'll still be watching and commenting in the chat. So please say hi. Let us know you're there because we're watching as well. So tonight we've got John Krsulja joining us with his new album. We're going to have a chat about that and we'll pop the pre-order in the comments for you to click on when we're finished. So chat away. Let us know what you've been doing because we're here to respond. So let us know where you've been up to this week, what you've been doing. Have you got back out and about yet, seen some friends finally? Let us know. We might welcome John into the room. Hi, thank you for joining.
How are we going?
I'm good. How have you been? Thank you. How have you been? You've been stuck at home for weeks, or have you been out and about?
Yeah, well, I live a pretty isolated life here at the DAG anyway, but I have been out and about. Last week, I went and visited my mum and dad and family in Sydney, and that was great to do a road trip. And I was a bit of a tourist in Sydney, which was great. Went to Manly. On the ferry, I just felt like I was part of society again.
Oh, wonderful. Were there many people out and about with you? Were there lots of people there?
There were.
Yeah.
The day we were coming back, they were having the Black Lives Matter rally. So there was a bunch getting off at Central. They closed down Town Hall Station, but getting off the ferry from Manly, it was almost like a rally in itself. A lot of people.
Wow. I'm not used to lots of people, so it's always good to hear these stories. We're isolated enough down here, isolation.
Well, I normally live with just sheep and chooks. So
at least you've got food.
People.
At least you've got food.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that's true. I've eaten a few of them.
Don't annoy me or I'll eat you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. I know that you've got a new album coming out, but I wanted to touch a bit on you and your musical career. Tell us what made you originally start in music. It's been a while.
That's a good question, isn't it? Yeah. Well, it was probably over 30 years ago now, and I guess it's funny because for me, picking up a guitar and playing music was just a form of one, connecting with myself, and two, disconnecting from others, if that makes sense. I think it was just finding a space that was my own.
Yeah, okay. And 30 years later, do you still enjoy it as much as you did when you started?
Yeah, I do, because when I started, I was a younger man, and then I traveled a lot, and as I come into my 30s and 40s, it was mostly business and family, and the guitar was always there as a friend, always a part of my life. It was always just sitting near the couch, or it went everywhere with me. So I think there was a lot of time there where I didn't play it for a long time or didn't connect, but through the DAG Sheep Station, the songwriter retreats and other artists, I was re-inspired, and start to improve the craft of songwriting, writing my own stuff rather than playing other people's stuff. And I think that's where me as an artist, where I like just going into my own music in my own space.
Perfect. Well, this is your album that we're talking about now, so tell us about it. It's up for pre-sale now. People can pre-order it via the link that we're posting in the comments. Tell us, when did you start writing for this album?
Started to write for Burden of the Fool probably within 6 months of traveling, the debut album coming out. And I think the first song that appears on Burden of the Fool was a song that I co-wrote with Alison Forbes. And we just sat there once to write a song. She came up with 2 words. She said, "Keep quiet." And we talked about a lot of things. We talked about the Me Too movement, depression, suicide, abuse, so many things. And we actually didn't write the song. We just had a jam, and then we drank a bottle of wine, and we just played other stuff. And then I kind of went away with that "keep quiet" and with the chord progression, and I just put together a whole bunch of stories that had happened around me and my life with my friends and people I knew. And that was the beginning of Burden of the Fool, Keep Quiet. And then it went from there. It was sort of, I guess, the Burden of the Fool has the last 3.5 years from traveling up until the last song I wrote for the album was January 2019.
Oh, wow. So it was a long time writing, and it's obviously been a long time coming for you to get it out there.
Yeah, it has. That last song I wrote was a song called People Revolution, and it's actually going to be the second single we release, and we filmed a clip for it right as we went into full on lockdown. So the cameraman had to be social distance from me, and I stood on a rock at a place called Hanging Rock all on my own, and it was really really cool. But the song. When you hear it, you'll just say, "Wow, did he just write that for this week?" and
Yeah.
and it's just so relevant. And I guess it came about from the belief that even back then through 2018 and 19, and there was a need for change. And I personally just felt that the next revolution was going to be the people revolution, because for things to change, we have to change, and the people have to change together, and slowly. It'll happen slowly, but I feel it's changing. So so it was a long time coming, and then of course the recording process didn't happen till March, April 2019.
Yes. So and the recording process, it was a bit of a hard time for you, but you've managed to keep a song and put it as a tribute for the people that you wrote it with, and for Glenn as well, for playing on it and not being able to play on the rest of the album. So that is your first single for Burden of the Fool. Tell us a little bit about that song and how it means to you.
Yeah, well, that song, Black to Blue, was the second song I probably wrote for the album, and I wrote that after Carl Brody passed away with pancreatic cancer, and Carl was the producer of my first album, and it was probably the first song I wrote once Carl left, and it was for me and him. It was me talking to him and remembering him telling me that it's hard to find your place within the music industry, and there are so many people around, yet it's you've got to find those quiet moments. But I guess the main message he used to say to me is don't write for the people, write for yourself, and music is art, and if you write for the masses, then it may not be just art. So that was one thing I took away from that. And you're right that it was a tribute to Glenn and to Carl. We recorded Burden of the Fool in 2 sessions. We did an acoustic sessions at Studio Gunga. That was with Glenn. And then Glenn took me, that was March 2019. And then Glenn took me to Love Hurt Studio with Matt Fell and Josh Schubert on drums. And we did a live track band session. So all the tracks were live tracks. So they're just mostly 1 or 2 takes, mostly 1 takes, which was pretty good. And that particular song, because Glenn was just sitting in the engineer and producer's chair. Sorry, Matt Fell was engineering. And he said, "Oh, Johnny, do you mind if I play a guitar for this song?" And luckily I said, "No, not at all." So I gave him my guitar, and I just sung the song as Glenn, Josh Schubert, and Matt Fell played. And those guys play together all the time. They're such a close bunch of friends, and they're all 3 of them are producers, and they play on a lot of people's albums, but they just played together, and I just sung, and that was the 1 take, and that's Black to Blue. It's very organic, and it was very right there and then, and we're lucky we captured it, because yes, Glenn was to leave us 4 weeks later.
Yeah, a magical moment. Magical moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, it's a wonderful, wonderful tribute, and what a way to remember 2 such amazing people.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Yeah. Now, this is being your second album. Your first album how is this different to your first album? Do you feel that it was a totally different experience coming to do your second album now?
It was. So the debut album, I never thought I had an album in me, and Carl said, like, let's record an album. And
Yeah.
we dug out these songs that I wrote when I was a 20, 21, 22-year-old man. And I was then at traveling, like, I was in my mid 40s. So we 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 made these songs come back to life, but the whole recording process with Carl was slow. It was over many, many months. He would come up from Sydney and stay at the DAG, and we would record. And of course, we did it to clicking tracks, and I'd never recorded before. So it was a really difficult process. And at times, Carl would he would rewrite the songs, so you'd have to relearn them. And a song that you'd played for 20 years, all of a sudden, the chorus was different, and it was so difficult. But come the end of the recording process, Carl sort of said, "Now you're a recording artist." I kind of got it towards the end.
Yeah.
So coming into the studio for the second album, um, Glenn and I talked about live tracking it, which means it's just me and my guitar, and you just play it. There's no clicking tracks, and it's just like a live recording, um, but with really cool gear. And that's what we did. And so it was so different. I recorded four of the tracks at Studio Gunga, and we did it in 3 hours.
Oh,
And
wow.
the band tracks were 4 weeks later at Love Hurt Studio, and we set up the studio, and we had a coffee and lunch, and I think it was 2 o'clock we started recording, and at 5 o'clock we were finished, and we had 6 tracks down, and we had the drums, bass, acoustic, and vocals. It was really, really cool. It was fast, so it was so different second time round. And then Matt Fell finished the album for me in November, and he got Pete Cornelius in on guitars, and Pete Cornelius just did beautiful work. The whole soundscape to the album is, they back off and
Yeah.
allow the songs and stories to come forward. And that was really important. And that was Carl's brief. And Matt
Yeah.
Fell stayed true to the brief and did a wonderful job.
How wonderful. Well, everybody can pre-order that now, so it won't be long until they can hear everything in this whole
I
master
know.
together. How exciting.
It's exciting. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say nervous. I'm not nervous because I got the CDs delivered a lot quicker than what I thought. They came within 2 weeks from overseas, and so I sent them out to people that I knew, friends, and allowed people to buy them now. And so a lot of people have it, but there's a lot that haven't heard anything. And so I guess that is a bit nervous to think, wow, what are they going to think? Because it is a little, it's a probably a bit different to what's out there in the way it's been live tracked, and half of the album starts off with the band, and then at Love Hurt Studio, and then the second half goes into Studio Gunga, and it's a real journey album. It's definitely a 1 to 11 track album, and actually I've ordered some on vinyl, and they're on the port right now. They're going to be shipped out in the next week, and there's a side A and a side B, and side A is the band sessions, side B the acoustic sessions, and it works really well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I hope everyone enjoys it.
Yes, I can't wait to hear the vinyl version. That is great. I love vinyl. You can't beat it.
Yeah,
Tell us a
me
little bit,
too.
how can we get this album, other than the pre-link? If we want a hard copy of the album, where can they get it from?
The first thing to do is learn how to spell my surname. Once you learn how to spell Krsulja, you'll find my website. It's That's an alphabet name, and the website, it's really cool. Like it's a website you can get into and do up a bit yourself. So I changed the backgrounds and redid it with my web guy, and it's so easy. It's a lot of information there, but to get the vinyl, the pre-order the vinyl,
Yes.
the CD,
Oh, you
and
got it.
yeah, I've got the CD there. It's a cool, it actually means a lot to me too, because this CD design was done by a guy called Glenn Perkis, and he's Pixel Boy. And Glenn Hanna actually designed Traveling. So this is my first album, Traveling, and Glenn Hanna designed that. So I got Glenn Perkins to design this one, and followed the same fonts and designs because Glenn used to work with Glenn Hanna. So when Glenn Hanna couldn't do jobs for, say, Country Update magazine, Glenn Perkins did. And so Glenn Perkins has done a lot for Glenn Hanna while Glenn was alive. And when Glenn passed away, Glenn stepped in to finish a lot of the stuff he was working on. And, you know, he's done a beautiful design, and his lyric sheets and everything. It's a good keepsake if you're into the physical work of somebody, because even the photography was done here at the DAG by a friend of mine, Andrew Pearson. And I think it's the whole lot's a body of art.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not just the music, it's the production, the songs, the lyrics, and everything that goes with it. Yeah.
The whole thing that goes into it, and it's wonderful when you get such a great outcome.
Yeah, a lot that goes into it, actually. Even this, it's all part of it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. We got there in the end, even with satellite.
I know, I'm on satellite. My biggest problem, Danny, is we're on limited data. So I have teenage daughters, and they've got friends now with them, and they're just on it all the time. And I always think, I hope my data lasts. So anyway, I've got plenty. It's good. We did it.
So far, we've done very well, and we're nearly there. So hopefully we haven't used all the data.
Yeah.
Want to get on?
No, we're right. You'll know if we did. I'll just disappear.
So yeah, it's all right, because we've had that happen before. We've had disappearing people before, so we're very used to it. There's certainly one thing about Kickback is it's definitely live, because there's been so many mistakes and so many random things happen, which I think makes it fun.
Yeah.
So where can we find you? If obviously you're not out touring at the moment, but you'll probably be doing some shows in the future as things start to go back into normality. Where can we find what you're up to? Is the best place to look on your website or Facebook? Where's the best place for people to keep an eye out?
Yeah, I'll keep my Facebook updated, and of course the website. Hats Off to Country has been cancelled, but it is going ahead as on a digital platform. So I went in yesterday and recorded in the round with Lizzie Stedman and Tony Kennelly, actually, for the Tamworth Songwriters Association. So we're doing a show for that in a few weeks with Hats Off, which is the digital world. But the physical world, I think the next time I go to perform is Nimbin Roots Festival in September. And that's a great little festival. I've been there 3 times before, and I took my kids there last year and we did a love peace rally march, and it's a great atmosphere. I did have a tour booked. It was through Arts New South Wales, and it was meant to happen after Hats Off, to tour the album and to tour with another Nundle girl, Natasha Soonchild, who was doing a one-woman show, where she plays 12 characters, and it was like a theatre show. But we've now put that off to April next year, and I think as the world starts to reopen and opportunities appear, I'll grab them, and we'll just have to play it by ear. It's been a tough time for everybody releasing music, and I'm not a big major touring artist, so it hasn't affected me like it's affected some of my friends, and so I hope they're well. I just heard today, actually, a mate of mine, and he hasn't played the guitar since lockdown, and
oh my goodness.
This is a guy who writes. It was good and bad. He's taken the time to do other things, and I think as a musician and an artist, it's good to have a life balance. And sometimes it's really balanced towards performing your art all the time on the weekends and practicing and promoting. Where the other part of life, I think this has brought it to a nice balance for some.
Yeah, and I think it's taught us so much. I think it's changed the way that we appreciate what we already have. There's so much that we can take from this experience. So I think we need to make sure that we take the positive side of it. So
Yeah.
well, thank you.
That's so true.
It is, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful having you on. We've obviously going to have the link in the comments so people can pre-order your album, but if everyone jumps on Facebook and follows you and has a look at your website, they'll be able to see where you are and what you're doing and order this album and the last album if they don't already have it, and enjoy it. But good luck with your release day.
Thanks, Danny. I appreciate you having me on here and the day before the release date. It means a lot to me. And everybody out there, I'm going to look at your comments and I'll answer them. And I can't wait to see everybody again. I really do. If you know me well, you know I'm a hugging kind of a guy. It's in my blood. I'm European blooded, and I sure miss, sharing that love. So at least the album's a start.
Exactly. It's a start, and
Yeah,
it will be back to normal soon. We will get there.
of course we will.
Thank you so much, guys. We will see you all next week. See you later.